Hi, welcome back to the Raw and Real podcast. I'm so excited to be with you because it feels like it's been a hot minute since I've had a guest on. I've had so much happening behind the scenes, which I'll tell you about later. But for the moment, let's introduce Amy. So, Amy, welcome to the pod.
Hello, welcome. Hello. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. So, me and Amy were just having a little bit of a chat as we joined a minute ago. And you were saying how normally mornings are like your time. And then afternoons are when you kind of let people into your space. So, firstly, thank you for allowing me into your sacred energy in the morning for you.
My
And
pleasure.
secondly, I would love to ask you what made you want to come on this podcast in the first place? And especially like changing up your routine for us.
Good to meet you, Claire. I love your energy. And I just thought it was a great opportunity. I loved the concept of this meetup. I love that. And I think it's really good. And when I saw 90s vibe, I'm like, I'm all over that. And then when I saw millennial, I'm like, I'm a bit of a different generation. But you know what? I love to live in the millennial energy. So I guess whatever keeps me young for as long as I can.
I love it. And I'm full on in my 90s gear today. It was not actually planned. I went to take my daughter to get her belly button pierced about an hour ago, hence why I quickly
Exciting.
sent a link before we even jumped on. But my coat, my favorite coat, has got a massive rip in it. So I had to borrow this from my teenage daughter. So there we go.
That's cool. That's cool. How was her experience? Did she love it?
Oh,
Was it
do you know,
scary?
she is like me. Basically, when I was her age, I don't even know how many piercings. I had them everywhere, and she's not much different.
I
What
get
can
it.
I say?
I get it. I get it.
So, Amy, I
That's
would
cool.
love to learn a little bit more about you. Like we don't know each other. You probably maybe know me better than I know you if you've listened to the pod. So I would love to find out, yeah, who Amy is.
Yeah, Amy is coming to life in her 50s on a
Yes.
whole different level. I'm very passionate about people, places, and things. I really am. Uh, I love everyone who comes into my space. I love them hard until they say that's enough. And I have a passion for food and for books and for art and for life. Mm,
So
quite a bit.
tell me the journey. So obviously you said you're coming into life in your 50s. So what's been the journey that
Mhm.
has led you to like now I'm ready to kind of be me? Is what I'm getting from that anyway.
Well, so I'm a Gen Xer. So we are the in between, like we're moving out of the baby boomer into the millennial. And so it was kind of this thing, this pull of sorts. So I was a bit of ahead of my time as a Gen Xer. So that's why I can relate to millennial life a little bit. Or Gen Z, I should say. No, I don't even remember. I don't know all the generations, but the thought is, I was always a bit of a trendsetter. I was always a bit of a rock star, but I had a really tumultuous life. And so, because of that, I learned throughout the years how to lean into tapping into who I was. So, there was a lot of introspection, a lot of really trying to break free from this mold that everybody was trying to put me in. And so I was a rebellious teenager. I was, speak her mind despite what other people think. And I still am. I just have the gray hair to be able to do it without complaint.
Oh, you rock that. Like your
Thank
hairstyle, I
you.
love it. It's amazing. I
Thank
really
you.
hope that I look like that in 20 years' time. Like
Thank you,
you look
sweet.
like a rock star, but you look like a gracious rock star. Like you have this really beautiful aura to you.
Oh, you're going to make me. Girl, I'm trying to put my makeup on. Don't you make me cry now.
It's more than I did. Honestly, I whacked a bit of lipstick on. I was like, I haven't even got time to do any makeup today.
You are gorgeous, Claire. Your energy, all of you. I'm like, I cannot wait to meet this woman. I cannot wait. I think
Speaking
you're
of which,
rocking it.
are you going to be coming to Real and Raw Live in June?
So there's a bit of a story behind that. Everything was saying yes. So unfortunately, I will not be there, unfortunately, because life happened. I had some overlapping and scheduling. But I was there and I was thinking about it and I was really wanting to make it work. But unfortunately, I won't be. So I'll be there in spirit. And I
Yes,
am
we'll have your spirit.
absolutely planning for the next one for sure. Don't you have one in, you have one in June coming up? What is it? No.
1st of June is Real and Raw Live in London, and then we haven't planned any others yet. So
Oh,
who
okay. That's
knows?
right. First of June. That's right. That was right. I have like four different events happening. Like, but
Do you
I'll
know,
be there
it's
in
so
spirit. I promise.
funny because I was talking to someone the other day who wanted to come and speak, and she was like, everything. She was like, yes, 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 yes. And then she asked the date. She must not have like realized the date. She's like, what's the date again? I was like, 1st of June. She's like, that's my wedding day. Well, if you're going to have
Yeah.
a reason not to come,
Oh,
that's
that's a
crazy.
good reason. That's a really good reason. I think you could, yeah, you can let her off.
Wedding, put it back a couple weeks.
I don't know how happy you would feel about that.
Well,
That's good.
he
That's
should be
beautiful.
supportive.
That's right. I agree with that. I agree.
So, Amy,
No,
where
that's
in
good.
the world are you?
I'm, so here comes my southern drawl. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, honey.
Hey,
I'm in the South in the States, so
yeah, you
by
don't have
Florida.
a thick accent though.
I don't because I'm not originally from here. I'm originally a New Yorker.
Okay.
I'm a New Yorker at heart. I still have New York spirit in me after all these years. But I've been living here for about 24 years.
Okay.
My son was born and raised here, so he's a Southerner.
What's the
So he
story
has a bit of the draw.
from New York to Atlanta?
Oh, honey, that's a story for another day. That is a full-on detailed story. However, I'll give you the gist of it. I was a bit of a wild child and decided I was going to leave upstate New York, go up to Canada, and decide I was going to live life, just roam free. And I met my husband there. So I met a Canadian, fell in love with him, my Prince Charming. And my parents were moving down south. And so we decided early in our marriage, hey, you know what? Let's move down south. And so my husband had wanted to break free from Canadian structural society. And he's like, let's become Southerners. And so that's what we did. And we became Southerners. And 4 years later, no, was it four? 2 years later, we had our son. And it's been a beautiful ride with him. And now we are empty nesters and we're bringing the passion back in again.
How does that feel? Because my eldest is 19 this year, which is,
Mm.
yeah, she's doing the traveling. She's here at the moment, but a couple weeks she's gone again. So she's generally somewhere around the world, which I love for her. Like, I really love that for her. But then my
Yeah.
youngest is 8. So I've still got like another 10 years of
Wow.
having one at home. But so I'm kind of getting a taste of like what it's like to let a child go.
Mm.
How old is your son?
He's 23.
Okay.
So
So you
he's a
found,
man.
yeah. Like, how have you found, or how did you find like that journey in the kind of earlier stages of like them really finding who they are as an adult? Sounds so weird to say.
That's a beautiful question. So it does come in stages. And our son certainly lived every stage. And he's just such a beautiful soul. And I remember 8 years old, he was coming into his own. 12 years old, he was coming into his own. 14 was a bit of a rocky road. He was always a little ahead of his time, too. Very, very intelligent. He has special needs, well, what everybody else calls special needs, but he has autism. So for him,
I understand.
we we didn't. It wasn't a crutch in our home. It was actually quite a bit of a, here's something that we have. Just like I have ADHD, so I'm a neurodivergent, so I can understand that. So we're like, you know what, we're gonna rock this, and it's gonna be fine. We're not gonna use it as an excuse. We're gonna grow with it. We're gonna embrace it, and that's pretty much what happened. And so he's living the dream. He's a flight attendant, flies all over the world for Delta, and he loves life. And I had to let him go, but it was in stages. And I remember saying to him, bear with me, honey, I'm learning to let you go.
Yeah.
I could hold you forever, and I know your wings are ready to go, but just appease your mother, allow me to love you a little bit longer. And, until he finally, just this past year, full on moved away, like to a whole different state. We were living in Mexico for a while, my husband and I. And so we were in Mexico and he was in Detroit, and it was just, so it made it a little easier. So it was all stages. But
Yeah.
man, the heart, the heart wants what the heart wants, and I would love my baby to be with me all the time. That would not be loving to him.
Yes.
And it would be everything that, against what I coach my clients to do.
Oh my
Let
God.
go, let
I know.
go.
But it is such a journey. And yeah, it's been really interesting with my eldest because she's 19 this year, but a bit like your son, she's always been very ahead of her time. So she was like, she's been planning traveling since she was about 16. Like as soon as I'm 18, like I'm gonna do it. And she did it,
Yes,
fair play to
yes.
her. But that moment I remember taking her to the airport for the first trip, which was to Vietnam. We dropped her off at Heathrow, and literally, like, my eyes were welling because it was like, "You're going without us!" Like, "You're going without us!" And then when she was over there, she was actually caught in, like, a big typhoon that she was okay, but, like, her internet went out for a few days. And that time, like, I knew she was safe because she had told me before, but that time of like just not even being able to text her, even though I didn't text her every day anyway, like when you're like, but now you can't. It was like, oh my gosh. And it's yeah, I find it a very interesting journey, and I guess it's a season, right? It's like it's a new season that I knew for me and new for her, and it's like we're both learning to navigate this
Oh
together.
yeah.
And there are
Oh
those
yeah.
where like I'm talking to her, she's like, "Mum, I'm not like 10 anymore." And I'm like,
Bear with me, love. Bear with me. To me, you are. You know, our babies are always going to be our babies. I was just thinking the other day of my son. I remember he had a little southern drawl. He'd go, Mama. He'd call me Mama. Mama, I need you, Mama. You know, and now he's like, get out my face. You know, most of the time. Like, I'm good. I live life. That being said, all jokes aside, it is a process. We raise our children to set them free.
yeah,
We love our children. We give them principles to live by, what kind of people they want to be. And that was always in front. Our son, his name is Ethan. So that was always in front of him. What kind of character do you want to have? What kind of person do you want to be? And, you know, I learned that through my trauma in my life, right? So I'm like, what kind of person do you want? What kind of person do you want to step up to be? And be that person, and don't let other people determine who you're going to be. And there was a deep spiritual connection there that we worked with him on. And so there was that, like, understand that there's already life and approval in your space. So just live your life and be what you need to be and tap into that.
I think
Take
that's
care.
so beautiful. And I've spoken to so many people on the pod and clients and just in general. And I think our generation, I know you're a little bit older, but again, you're like kind of ahead of your time. So I'm just gonna blanket you in with us.
Thank you.
But I do feel like there's this kind of period, like this maybe 20-year period of like our people where we were raised in a very different way by our parents who were still coming out of wars, and they were still coming out of Victorian eras and very very
Mhm,
different ways of living.
mhm,
And then we have
mhm,
all of the technology and the advancement and the awakenings. I feel like there's a much more deeper spiritual connection in our kind of
mhm,
generation as well, and
mhm,
seeing the difference between our childhoods and then the childhoods that we give to our children. And I know for me,
mhm,
and I don't know about you, Amy, but my eldest definitely repeated some of my patterns from when I was
mhm,
a teenager. And
mhm,
that was at a time where I had just started finding personal development. I had just started like really understanding awareness and self and all of those kind of things. And it was like, and
mhm,
obviously that's her journey and that's her path. But now for my youngest, I have so much more awareness and emotional
mhm,
intelligence and just so much more that I can give her. And sometimes I
mhm.
feel guilty because, my eldest Sophie, she'll be like, well, it wasn't like that with me. And I was like, I know, but I wasn't who I am then.
You were learning.
Yeah, I grew as
Yeah,
well. And
yeah.
like, what is your, obviously, if you only got the one son,
I have the one.
Yeah.
I
So
hope
what
the
has
one.
the journey been like in comparison to your own kind of childhood and upbringing?
At the core, he has a mixture of my husband is so grounded as a person. He's so calm and collected and grounded. And I'm like the wow, that's you know. And so we balance each other. My son has a lot of both of us in it. Right now he's living the life, the core me. The let's explore. I want to nobody to tell me what to do. And I want to live my life and I want to have my own mistakes and I want to and that's okay. I actually was just having this conversation with my parents. I was spending time with my parents the other night. My parents are the coolest 70-year-olds you will ever meet. They really are. They're total hippie, cool. They weren't that way when I was growing up. My mother she had Catholic upbringing. That we I felt a little like Madonna in a way growing up, the kind of lifestyle. But they're not those people now. But it's interesting. I was able to have that conversation with them. And we're kind of going through some personal things right now and differences. And I had to help her understand, like, the way that I raised our son was on principle, not on rules per se. So he's got to test them out. Sometimes we have to test those things out to decide what is really right for us. And so the difference was there's I don't want to shame him. I didn't want to shame him in that space. Whereas I was shamed or I was told otherwise, I had to really break free from that. And that's really at the core of who I am and what I coach my clients now, because a lot of the women that come to me they have incredibly tumultuous past, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. So these women that come to me, that's one of the things I say, shame is at the bottom of that. And I didn't want to, you know, have that envelop our son. And so when he's come to us with things, and I wasn't always the perfect person for that. Like I was breaking free from my past. And it was interwoven in our relationship. And so for a long time, there was a little bit of that, but he taught me to become aware. And he's like, do you see what's happening here? Do you see? And light bulb, wow, I've learned through him. So there was a lot of learning that was going on. An only child, right? Because our son's only child. I lost two others. And so because of that, there was a lot of grief and a lot of, pain, but we poured our heart into him. And so now, as an adult, when he says, I want to live my life, my hands are off the
Yeah.
delay. I'm here. I'm here when you need me and when you need that support. I will always love who you are as a person. I've chosen in certain things, I'd rather not know about those things, just to preserve my peace in my heart. However, I raised a very wise person. My husband and I were just saying it. We raised him right. In the South, we have a saying, you've been raised right. You've been raised. Your mama raised you right. And that's how I know. I raised my son right. I raised him well. And my mother said that. She said, Amy, you were exceptional parents with Ethan, our son. And so whatever it is that his balance will come, his score will come, it will come in time because you raised him well. So
So
that I
good.
can live by. Because as a parent, we're always going to feel, did I do enough? Did I say the right thing? There's a lot of guilt that comes with that because we're all imperfect. We will never reach perfection. And so because of that, we feel a lot of that. And so I've gone through a lot of grief through that. But within that, when we shine the light, the core is he's living the life that I instead of a wild child. That's
I
okay.
love that. I feel like our children are probably very similar energies, but I loved what you said about, sometimes like he'll call you out and it'll give you a lesson. My daughter does the same and she'll be like, but mum, like you teach people this. Or like,
I love it. Yeah.
this is what you stand for. Like you're always saying this. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
It's like looking in the mirror. Our kids they're a mirror reflection of us.
Old torch like shining right on you. You're like, ah!
All right, I get it already. I get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
But you know what? As much as it might kind of not aggravate me, but like gets under my skin in that moment, like by the time I kind of, let myself sink into it and really realize that she's right, and it's just like my ego being a bit dented. And it's like, if I didn't have someone to do that, I would still have those moments where I slip into old patterns and old paradigms and old ways
Mm,
of thinking without anyone
mm.
there calling me out and be like, whoa, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
They keep us real. They keep us authentic. And I think that's really beautiful that we are able to have that as parents. And not every parent has that. Not every child has that dynamic or relationship.
That's so
You know,
true.
I work with women. I work with women that are so they never had that. They were raised in rules and the trauma on top of that and the hurt and pain with life lessons.
Yeah, 100%.
It's beautiful.
I even think about my relationship with my mum, and it's definitely getting better, and we're becoming more open and more, a better level of communication. But it's been a journey to get to that. And even now, like our relationship is nothing like mine and my daughter's, it's far from that, but it's a work in progress. But like
Mm-hmm.
you say, it's, we were raised in a different way. I was definitely raised by rules. I was raised by, my mum had a very, again, her upbringing, that's what she was brought up with. And her parents never told her that they loved her. And she was brought up
Mm-hmm.
very isolated, and she was
Mm-hmm.
an only child really, but with, a big age gap between siblings. So that it was really like an only child. And she had all of her own traumas and her own kind of
Mm-hmm.
journey to work through. But
Mm-hmm.
she never was fortunate enough to maybe fall into or come across, personal development and self-growth to have the kind of awakening and awareness of
Mm-hmm.
change this. And now I'm kind of trying to gently open her up to it without coaching someone who doesn't want coaching. I think there's a there's a clear
That
line.
is a challenge. That's so beautiful, Claire. That's the goal, isn't it? The goal,
Yeah, and I think
awareness,
it's one of those
understanding.
things where, if you think, I was talking to someone yesterday, one of my speakers, and in her talk, she started it, and I say this all the time, but if you were on your deathbed today, what would you regret? And
Mm.
yeah,
Oof.
yeah, and I think for me, one of the top things would be not trying to forge a better relationship with my mum.
Mm.
What about you,
Mm.
Amy? If you were on your deathbed,
Woo!
would be
I knew that was coming my way. I knew that was coming my way.
all of it.
Honey, okay. So I worked. That's a question I ask myself. You know that's a bit of an assessment question for me. So that is one of my challenge has always been feeling understood, right? Feeling understood as a person. So I think my deepest regret would be to try to make other people understand me. That would be my regret. Because for me, that's what I mean. I'm coming into this, I'm becoming a person that's really realizing I've worked really hard. I've invested a lot in myself as a person, and it is not my responsibility to make you try to understand me. And that to me, I think is my biggest celebration moment. So it would be a regret to regress and say, I want to sit in this mold that other people, because that takes away people's free will. It impedes in other people's free will when we're always trying to make them think something we want them to think. So letting go, you know, to touch on what you were mentioning about your mom, my mother and I have had that relationship and we've worked on it over the years. And there have been times where I've had to establish incredible boundaries and say, we're not doing it. And it would be months before we spoke again. Or it would be even one time it was a year and a half. Well, and people would say, well, what are you doing? That's your mother. That's the point.
Yeah.
The point is, I would love a warm, open relationship with my mother, and she needs time to grow into that as a person. And you know what? Every single time my mother has risen to the occasion. So we have now, she was just sharing because I'm going through the transition of life. And when you said graceful, I'm like, thank goodness, honey, because let me tell you, those hot flashes don't make you feel graceful. Those mood swings do not make you feel graceful. However, I was able to sit with her and listen, really listen to her. And she gave me such beautiful wisdom based on her experiences in life. And we were able to have those deep conversations. So I'm grateful for the work that we've put in over the years, because when our son was born, in my family, I come from a Latin family. So there's a lot of, that's my child now. And I said, no, 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 we are not doing this. This is I birthed him for 38 hours. He was my responsibility. And I would love your wisdom. However, I'm going to bounce it off of other things. And if it's not something that I feel comfortable applying, I'm going to tell you, thank you, no thank you. And if that triggers you or bothers you, that's not my responsibility. I have to contain this for my son to protect him.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to break the cycle of generational and what the Latino and, all that machismo. And my son is a bookworm. He's very sensitive and he has a beautiful, sensitive heart, and he was different than most Latinos. So I wasn't going to have that. I was going to allow him to have the space to grow into who he is as a person. And so he has both now. He's very balanced young person for his age. But anyways, so my regret would be to try to make other people always try to understand me or to work their opinion of who they think I am.
You know what I love? I love all of that so much. But what you said about it actually takes away people's free will, that actually really landed for me because I've never thought about it like that. Obviously we think about it from a self place of I don't want to mold myself, to appease others or to, not risk rejection and all that kind of thing. But to actually think about it from a very selfless perspective and to think, actually it's their, this is their life, they get to choose as well, like who is right and wrong. I don't like right and wrong, but for sake of
Exactly.
not having a
Yeah.
better word to hand right now, right and wrong, and allowing them to make that choice and it not mean anything about you. I think that's a really, really beautiful angle, and I love that. Oh my gosh, I love this
So
conversation. Like we've really gone heavy on the parenthood, and I'm so here for it because I know that a lot of people who listen to this podcast and who are in my world, like we are parents now. We're late 30s, early 40s, and maybe slightly older, some of us.
I love it. I miss those. It's funny. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. I'm 50. I'm 50 now. My 30s was so entangled in so much emotional and word struggle
Yeah.
that I want to say, our children lose the battle, win the war. Our children they're going to, imperfection will make them feel trauma. When we love our kids, we give them the space to grow. We teach them the principles to teach them. Everything else, let it go. Because it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Wise.
You try to do all the right things. And I like you, Claire, right and wrong. That also, there are things that you choose to do and choose not to do, based on standards, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? So we have principles, fundamental truths that last a lifetime are everywhere around us. So the law of life, I like to call it the law of life. What you put out, you're going to get back. It's going to happen. So everything else, slow it down, let it be. If your kid eats dessert before dinner, who cares?
Oh my God, my youngest loves to do that.
Who cares? Like, really, like, let him have it. Like,
I've given up fighting that battle. I'm like, you know what? If you eat your dinner, just go for it.
Right. Like, just, it's okay. Be there for them when they need you. Don't impose on them things that they're not ready to be imposed on. And that was my struggle. I wanted my son to have everything before he left. And it actually was counterproductive, and I realize that now. Like, he's like, it's like going to school and learning math. Do we need all this math? I mean, do we live with all this math? Like, do I use trigonometry in a day? I am an aroma psychologist. I use energetics. I use oils, even dilution rates. I use a little algebra, a little math. Okay, but do we use keep it simple,
Yeah,
you know?
so beautiful.
Oh, I miss that age.
I love the wisdom. And you know what? I think I said this to my friend actually the other day, and I think it's probably one of those things that never makes sense because you're always chasing it. But I always think about anyone older than me, always saying, the 20s is this, the 30s is this, the 40s is this. And, until you're in it and kind of
Mm.
coming out the end of that decade, it's like, oh, I get it. Like these for me, definitely, so many people say it's where you really find yourself and you really like start to know yourself. And I definitely feel like that. Like I let go of so much crap and I let
Yeah.
go of so much weight and so many kind of masks and facades and really just owning who I was and what I was here to do and my voice. And like we said in the beginning, not trying to change for other people or trying to get them to like us or
Mm.
anything like that. And just knowing that who we are right now is enough. So I love that because I think that just all
Mm.
ties in so beautifully with the real and the raw movement and what it's all about and just trusting that you are enough right now. Your story is enough. Your voice is enough. It's all enough if you allow it to be. I love that.
Excellent.
Amy, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me.
I've loved every second of it. Has time flown? I don't even know what time it
Yeah,
is.
I
Oh
was
my
for
goodness.
about 5 minutes. We need to wrap up.
Amazing. Yeah, no, this was fun. This was wonderful. Thank you for having me on,
I'm
Claire.
disappointed that you can't make real and raw live, but we will definitely be meeting in person at some point in the future. I can feel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Amy, thank you so much for joining me. And for you guys watching, if you like the podcast, please do like, share, subscribe, give us a comment, all of the things. It helps us grow the reach, it helps us spread the love, and it helps tell the algorithm that you like this. So sending you all so much love. Go and get your tickets right now for Real and Raw Live, June the 1st, right here in London. The webpage is done, it's dusted, and it looks freaking incredible if I say so myself. So until next time, I will see you all soon for your girls' night in. Bye for now.